Most people believe the brain slowly shuts down after 50%, that memory loss, mental fog, and emotional instability are simply the price of aging. But neuroscience tells a very different story. In reality, the brain does not collapse with age. It collapses with habits right now. Millions of people over 50 are unknowingly damaging their brains every single day. Not through disease, not through genetics, but through ordinary, repeatable behaviors that quietly erode memory, focus, and emotional control. What makes this dangerous is not how dramatic these habits are. It is how normal they feel. You may be doing them right now without realizing the cost. And by the time the symptoms show up, forgetfulness, confusion, mental fatigue, loss of motivation, the damage often feels sudden, even though it has been building for years. Today we are going to expose 5 brain-killing habits after 50 habits that research shows accelerate cognitive decline, and more importantly, we will explain why they work so you can interrupt the process before it is too late. Because here is the truth. No one tells you your brain after 50 is still plastic, still adaptable, still capable of strengthening, but only if you stop doing what is silently weakening it. One of the most harmful beliefs about aging is this: cognitive decline is inevitable. This idea is comforting because it removes responsibility, but it is also scientifically false. Yes, the brain changes with age. Processing speed slows, slightly, reaction time may decrease, but structural collapse is not automatic. In fact, studies comparing adults in their 20s with adults in their 60s show something surprising. Many older adults outperform younger ones in decision-making, emotional regulation, pattern recognition, and long-term reasoning. So why do some minds stay sharp while others unravel? The difference is not age. The difference is habitual brain environment. Your brain is not a static organ. It responds daily to sleep, quality, movement, nutrition, stress, load, social input, and mental stimulation. Change the environment and the brain rewires itself accordingly. Ignore it and decline accelerates. People often say his memory just went downhill suddenly, but neuroscience shows decline is slow, cumulative, and silent. Years before noticeable symptoms appear, the brain begins losing synaptic efficiency, neurochemical balance, blood flow regulation, and stress recovery capacity. And the biggest contributors are not rare diseases. They are everyday habits repeated thousands of times. This is why prevention after 50 is so powerful. You are not trying to fix a broken brain. You are interrupting a negative trajectory. And once you understand the mechanism, change becomes possible. Sleep is not rest. Sleep is brain maintenance. During deep sleep, your brain consolidates memories, clears metabolic waste, stabilizes emotional circuits, and repairs neural connections. After 50, the brain becomes more sensitive to sleep loss, not less chronic. Poor sleep does not just make you tired, it physically shrinks memory, related brain regions over time, and the most dangerous part, most people do not even realize they are sleep deprived. They adapt to fatigue. They normalize brain fog. They accept forgetfulness as aging. But it is not aging. It is deprivation in younger years. The brain has a large physiological buffer. Mistakes are forgiven after 50. That buffer shrinks, but plasticity remains. This means 2 things. Bad habits hurt. More good habits help more. Your brain becomes more responsive to lifestyle input. That is why people who change habits in their 50s often see dramatic cognitive improvement, sometimes better than they felt at 40. This is not motivational talk. It is neurobiology. When mental energy drops, people reduce activity. When focus weakens, they stop challenging themselves. When memory slips, they withdraw socially. But withdrawal accelerates decline. The brain follows. The use it or lose it rule more aggressively with age. And this is why the habits we will discuss are so destructive. They create a feedback loop of decline. Break the loop, and the brain rebounds. In this series, you will learn why certain habits quietly destroy cognition, how these habits affect specific brain regions, what science actually says about prevention, and how to reverse damage before it becomes permanent. This is not about fear. This is about control, because the most dangerous thing after 50 is not losing memory. It is believing you cannot influence it. In the next part, we will break down the first major brain-killing habit in full detail, the one most people underestimate, and the one neurologists quietly agree causes more damage than genetics. If you've ever said, "I sleep okay," I think you need to see what comes next. Most people think they understand sleep. They believe sleep is simply about rest, about recharging the body so you can function the next day. But for the brain, sleep is not rest. Sleep is active neurological reconstruction. And after 50, sleep becomes the single most important daily behavior, determining whether your brain declines or stabilizes. Yet this is where the damage quietly begins after midlife sleep architecture changes. Deep sleep becomes shorter. Night awakenings increase, circadian rhythm weakens, stress hormones linger longer. This does not mean the brain needs less sleep. It means the brain needs better protected sleep. Unfortunately, most people do the opposite. They accept poor sleep as normal aging. They say things like, "I do not sleep like I used to." That is just age. This belief alone accelerates decline because once sleep quality drops consistently, the brain enters a slow, neurodegenerative environment. Sleep is not optional. Brain care after 50. It is preventive neurology during deep sleep. Your brain performs 3 critical functions: memory consolidation, neural waste removal, emotional circuit reset without proper sleep. These systems fail, not immediately, but cumulatively. Night after night, year after year in younger brains, occasional sleep loss is tolerated. After 50, tolerance decreases, reduced neurochemical flexibility, slower cellular repair, increased inflammation sensitivity. This means sleep deprivation now causes structural consequences, not just fatigue. Research shows that chronic sleep deprivation after midlife is associated with hippocampal shrinkage, impaired executive function, emotional dysregulation, and increased dementia risk. And the most alarming part, many people with normal sleep patterns are still sleep deprived. Here is a dangerous misconception. "I get 6 hours. I am fine." Quantity is not quality. You can sleep 7 hours and still miss sufficient deep sleep. Late night screen exposure, irregular sleep schedules, alcohol as a sleep aid, untreated sleep apnea, chronic stress. These fragment sleep cycles. The brain never reaches the restorative stages long enough. As a result, the person wakes up feeling functional, but cognitively diminished. This is silent erosion. People notice memory problems. First, they forget names, they misplace items, they lose train of thought, they blame age. But memory loss is often the first visible symptom of sleep-related brain stress. Without proper sleep, new memories fail to stabilize. Old memories become harder to access and attention becomes fragmented. This creates the feeling of mental fog, and once confidence in memory drops, people reduce mental engagement. Worsening decline. Poor sleep does not just affect thinking, it affects personality. Poor sleep weakens the brain's emotional regulation systems as a result. Stress tolerance decreases, irritability increases, anxiety becomes persistent, and motivation drops. Many people think they are becoming depressed. In reality, their emotional circuits are exhausted. The brain is operating in survival mode. Chronic sleep deprivation increases dementia risk. Poor sleep allows toxic proteins to accumulate in the brain over years. This changes neural communication patterns by the time cognitive decline becomes obvious. Damage has often been building for a decade. That is why sleep is not optional. Brain care after 50. Many people try to fix poor sleep by sleeping longer on weekends. Unfortunately, the brain does not work that way. Irregular sleep schedules confuse circadian timing. This leads to weaker sleep cycles, less deep sleep, and more night awakenings. Consistency matters more than duration. Your brain thrives on rhythm. After 50, rhythm is everything. Sleep is not a luxury, not a reward, not optional. It is neurological maintenance. People who protect sleep after 50 consistently show better memory retention, sharper attention, emotional stability, and slower cognitive aging. This is not about perfection. It is about priority. If you wake up tired, most mornings feel mentally slower than you used to, struggle with focus or recall, or feel emotionally reactive, sleep is likely the first habit undermining your brain. And the good news, sleep-related damage is often partially reversible. The brain responds quickly. When deep sleep is restored in the next part, we will expose another habit that quietly destroys cognition after 51 that most people think is harmless, even healthy. Yet research shows it may be more damaging than poor sleep when sustained long-term. It does not attack memory. First, it attacks identity, motivation, and mental resilience. Almost everyone is guilty of it. Most people think loneliness is an emotional issue, something that affects mood, something that makes you feel sad or disconnected. But neuroscience shows something far more serious after 50%. Social withdrawal is a direct neurological threat. It does not just affect how you feel, it affects how your brain functions structurally and chemically. And the most dangerous part, it usually begins quietly, rationally. Without warning, people do not wake up one day and decide to isolate themselves. It starts subtly: fewer phone calls, fewer social invitations, less interest in conversation, preference for being left alone. Often it is justified as peace. I like my quiet. I do not have the energy for people. I have earned my solitude. And solitude can be healthy. But isolation is not solitude. Solitude restores the brain. Isolation starves it after 50. The line between the two becomes dangerously thin. Human brains evolve for connection, conversation, facial expressions, tone of voice, shared experiences. These are not extras, they are cognitive workouts. Social interaction activates memory, recall, attention, switching, emotional regulation, language processing, and executive decision-making. When social input decreases, these circuits weaken, not immediately, but progressively. And once weakened, they are used less, accelerating decline. Large-scale studies consistently show that chronic social isolation after midlife is associated with faster cognitive decline. Increased dementia risk, reduced brain volume in key regions, and higher rates of depression and anxiety. In some studies, the cognitive impact of loneliness rivals smoking and obesity, yet it is rarely treated as a brain health priority because it does not feel dangerous. It feels normal. Here is the paradox: as the brain's processing speed slows slightly with age, social interaction can feel more effortful, conversation requires focus, noise becomes tiring. Social dynamics feel complex, so the brain seeks simplicity. Avoidance feels easier. But this creates a feedback loop. Less interaction, weaker circuits, more effort. Required, more effort, more avoidance over time. The brain adapts to isolation, but not in a healthy way. It downregulates social cognition. This makes re-engagement harder. Later, social interaction does more than stimulate. Thinking it reinforces identity through interaction. We answer unconscious questions. Who am I? Where do I belong? Am I useful? Am I valued? When these inputs disappear, motivation declines. People begin to feel invisible, not useless, just irrelevant. This is one of the earliest emotional signs of cognitive decline. Not memory. Loss of engagement with life. Retirement removes daily social structure. Colleagues disappear, routine interaction stops, purpose becomes ambiguous if not replaced intentionally. The brain experiences social deprivation. This is why some people decline rapidly after retirement, while others thrive. Thrivers replace interaction, challenge, and contribution. Decliners retreat, same age, same health. Different brain environment. Memory is not stored in isolation. It is strengthened through retrieval, often during conversation. When you tell a story, recall a name, or discuss an event, memory circuits are reinforced without this stimulation. Recall weakens, verbal fluency declines, and narrative thinking erodes. This is why socially active older adults often appear sharper, even if they forget small details. Their brains are exercised. Isolation gives the brain fewer external anchors. Thoughts turn inward. This increases rumination, anxiety, catastrophic thinking, and emotional sensitivity. The brain loses perspective without social feedback. Small worries grow larger. This mental noise further reduces cognitive clarity. Many people believe messaging or scrolling replaces interaction. It does not. Passive. Digital input lacks real-time feedback, emotional nuance, and cognitive load. It stimulates dopamine, not cognition in excess. It can actually worsen attention and memory. Real interaction challenges. The brain challenges protective. Social engagement is not about popularity. It is about cognitive survival. You do not need dozens of people. You need meaningful interaction, conversation, shared problem solving, laughter, disagreement, storytelling. Even small regular engagement protects brain circuits. Unlike some cognitive functions, social cognition responds quickly to reactivation. When people re-engage socially, studies show improved mood, better verbal fluency. Why? Sharper attention and increased motivation. The brain remembers how to connect. It just needs opportunity. If you find yourself avoiding interaction more than before, feeling mentally tired around people, preferring isolation by default, or losing interest in conversation, this habit may already be affecting your brain, not permanently but progressively. In the next part, we will uncover a habit so normalized that most people defend it, yet neuroscience links it to reduced blood flow, memory loss, and emotional dullness after 50. It is not about what you think, it is about what you do not do anymore, and it is one of the most reversible causes of cognitive decline. Most people understand that movement is good for the body, but very few understand what lack of movement does to the brain, especially after 50. Because after midlife, physical inactivity does not just weaken muscles, it starves the brain of what it needs to survive. And the damage is subtle, slow, and devastating. Your brain is only 2% of your body weight, but it consumes over 20% of your body's. Oxygen and energy. Movement is what regulates that supply. When you move regularly, especially after 50%, blood flow to the brain increases, oxygen delivery improves, growth factors are released, and inflammation decreases. When movement stops, the opposite happens. The brain becomes underfueled, and an underfueled brain cannot stay sharp. Long periods of sitting reduce cerebral blood flow, not dramatically in one day, but chronically over time. Research shows that prolonged inactivity leads to reduced hippocampal volume, slower information processing, poorer executive function, and increased fatigue and brain fog. This is not about weight-thin people who are sedentary experience the same cognitive risks. Inactivity attacks the brain directly. Many people say, I read, I watch documentaries, I stay informed. Mental stimulation is important, but it is incomplete without movement. Why? Because physical activity triggers brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a growth chemical that protects neurons and strengthens connections. Without it, learning slows, memory weakens, and adaptability drops. You cannot think your way into producing it. You have to move. Regular physical activity after 50 has been shown to stimulate neurogenesis, improve attention and focus, stabilize mood, and slow age-related brain shrinkage. Even moderate movement counts. Walking, light resistance, balance work. The brain does not need punishment, it needs consistency. This is a cruel loop. When people move less, they feel less motivated. They assume motivation should come first, but neuroscience shows motivation often follows movement, not precedes it. Movement activates dopamine pathways. Dopamine fuels drive, interest, and engagement. Without movement, motivation dries up. This is why inactivity often leads to apathy. Mistaken for getting old, people often describe feeling flat or numb, not sad, not happy, just dull. This emotional blunting is strongly linked to low physical activity. Movement regulates emotional circuits. Without it, pleasure response weakens, stress tolerance drops, and emotional resilience fades. Life feels smaller. This is not personality change. It is neural understimulation. One of the biggest barriers is the word exercise. People imagine intense workouts, pain, exhaustion, and comparison. The brain does not care about gyms. It cares about movement variety, walking with intention, changing pace, coordination, balance, light resistance. These stimulate brain regions responsible for planning, adaptation, and memory. Here is something powerful. Physical activity has greater cognitive impact after 50 than at 30. Why? Because the aging brain responds more strongly to positive input. Studies show older adults often gain more cognitive benefit per unit of exercise than younger adults. It is never too late in many cases. It is the perfect time. Inactivity damage is cumulative. Every year of sedentary behavior increases vascular stiffness, insulin resistance, and neuroinflammation. These changes reduce the brain's ability to recover later. Starting earlier matters, but starting now still works. If your days involve long sitting periods, minimal walking, little variation in movement, or avoidance of physical challenge, your brain may already be feeling the effects. even if your body feels okay. This habit does not announce itself loudly. It whispers in the final part. We will uncover the most underestimated brain-killing habit after 51, that feels productive, even responsible, yet it silently exhausts the brain's emotional and cognitive reserves. It is not about what you eat or how you move. It is about what never turns off inside your head. And once you understand it, everything changes. If there is one habit that destroys the aging brain more silently than any other, it is chronic, unmanaged stress, not sudden stress, not short-term pressure, but the kind of stress that never fully turns off, the kind people say they have learned to live with. After 50%. This habit does not just affect mood, it reshapes the brain itself. Stress is not new. You have handled it your entire life. But after 50, the brain's ability to recover from stress changes. The stress response lasts longer. Cortisol stays elevated, the nervous system struggles to reset. What used to be temporary becomes chronic, and chronic stress is neurotoxic. Prolonged stress exposure causes measurable changes in the brain. It shrinks the hippocampus, the center of memory and learning, weakens the prefrontal cortex responsible for focus and decision making. It overactivates the amygdala, the fear and anxiety center. This creates a brain that is forgetful, emotionally reactive, mentally fatigued, and easily overwhelmed over time. This state feels normal, but it is not healthy. Many people believe stress comes from circumstances, responsibilities, finances, family health concerns, but neuroscience shows something important. Stress is not caused by events. It is caused by unresolved mental load. The brain stays activated when problems feel unsolved, uncontained, or constantly revisited. After 50%. This mental looping becomes especially damaging. Chronic stress often looks like constant worrying, replaying conversations, anticipating problems, mental multitasking, and inability to fully relax. This continuous background noise prevents the brain from entering restorative states. Even during rest, the brain is on. This is why people feel tired even after doing nothing. High cortisol interferes with memory formation. People under chronic stress experience difficulty learning new information, trouble recalling names and details, fragmented attention, and slower processing. They often fear dementia, but in many cases the brain is overall loaded, not degenerating. Reduced stress and cognition improves. Ironically, the most responsible, capable, and conscientious people suffer the most from stress-related cognitive decline. They carry too much mentally. They do not delegate. They do not mentally clock out. They feel responsible for everything. Their brains never get a break. After 50, this becomes unsustainable. Chronic stress increases inflammation, insulin resistance, blood pressure, and sleep disruption. These physical effects further damage brain health. Stress is not just psychological, it is systemic. Here is the hopeful truth: the brain recovers remarkably well when stress is reduced. Studies show that when chronic stress is managed, hippocampal volume can stabilize memory, improves emotional regulation, returns, and mental clarity increases. But stress reduction is not about relaxing more. It is about changing how the brain processes life. The 5 brain-killing habits after 50 are poor sleep, social withdrawal, physical inactivity, chronic stress, and the belief that decline is inevitable. All 5 share one thing: they reduce stimulation while increasing load. The brain gets less nourishment and more pressure. That combination accelerates decline. People who stay sharp after 60 are not lucky. They protect sleep. They stay socially engaged. They move regularly. They manage stress intentionally. They believe improvement is possible. That belief alone changes behavior, and behavior changes the brain. The final habit is not listed above it, is doing nothing because you think it is too late. That belief shuts down plasticity, and it is completely false. Your brain is still adapting, still responding, still learning. It does not care about your age. It cares about your environment. Change the environment, and the brain changes. You are not losing your mind because you are aging. You are losing it or protecting it based on what you do every day, and starting today is not late. It is powerful. If any of these habits felt uncomfortably familiar, you are not alone. Share which one surprised you the most. And if you want to continue strengthening your brain after 50%, Watch the next video where we break down simple daily habits that rebuild memory and focus naturally. Your brain is still capable. You just have to stop doing what is quietly weakening it.